Live from the backstretch at historic Saratoga Racecourse, this is Saturdays at the Spa with Brian Nadeau. Saturdays at the Spa is brought to you by CapitalOTBBet.com, New York's premier wagering site. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today. The new Capital mobile app. Wager anywhere, anytime. Download it free from the iTunes Store or Google Play. And the Nell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Good morning, Brian Nadeau with you. Saturdays at the Spa here, Whitney Day, a big card on tap. We've got some weather worries and issues, but we've got a good day here. Just some bookkeeping if you're not aware. Race 10 and 11, the two Turf Stakes races have actually been canceled. They're going to be run back next week. No late pick 5, no late pick 4. Race 5, the De La Rose, is still going to be on the turf, but it's an early day here at Saratoga. So the Whitney will wrap up the card, which is kind of cool. The Get Out race is the big race on the day. We've got 3 guests on tap here. I'm going to bring Chad Summers in a second, trainer of Mind Your Biscuits. I'm going to have Rick Violet on a little later, trainer of Diversify. Al Stahl will be in the middle, trainer of Minute to Stardom in the Test. So we've got 2 great races today. The Test, one of my favorite historic races here at Saratoga, and certainly the Whitney needs no introduction. But with that being said, I will bring in Chad Summers, who I think if he's not going to start the favorite in Mind Your Biscuits, he might start the horse to beat, and a lot of questions to answer. Chad, welcome. Saturdays at the Spa. Good luck today. How is Mind Your Biscuits coming into a very important test today?
Oh, it's doing great, and thanks for having me on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, Whitney Day, obviously a big day, and you know we're excited to play a big part in it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the first question is the obvious question. 2 turns, a route of ground today has not been done. I said earlier on the Handicappers Report, he gives me no reason to think he can't do it. He's done everything else you've asked. He comes out of a great race in the Met Mile when he was nosed out and was closing hard again like he always does. Your thoughts on him getting those 2 turns, getting a route of ground? I said kind of jokingly, I don't know if he can do it. Maybe you don't know if he can do it, but he gives you every indication he can.
Well, I mean, I don't know that he can't not do
Sure.
it, and that's kind of the whole kind of thesis behind this. You know, everybody out there has a strong opinion. You know, it's been all over social media that he can't do it or he can't. You know, to me, until he can't do something, I don't see why he can't.
Exactly.
And, you know, everything that he's done has always shown us to do that. Look, we could have taken the easy ride out. We could have gone to the Belmont Sprint last year, go back for the 4-go again. But, you know, we think that he deserves the opportunity to stretch out. And we're not here for the free lunch. We're here to win this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would think the other good thing about this race is it's going to help you plot your path going forward, right? If he wins the Whitney or runs a bang-up second in closing again, I would think the bullseye is the Classic. You know, at the end of the year, if he runs poorly today, you can always kind of cut back, maybe the Kelso or even the 4-go, and then the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile at Churchill Downs this year is at 1 turn.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of things to consider. Obviously, you know, the Breeders' Cup is our big goal.
Sure.
You know, you circle that date on the calendar every year, and you know what this race would do would open up another avenue. So we have the Sprint, which we run 2nd and 3rd the last 2 years. We have the Dirt Mile, and maybe this opens up a window to the Classic, and really what would be the weakest of the 3 divisions right now. You know, the Sprint looking pretty strong,
yes.
Imperial Hand, XY Jet, horses like that. The Dirt Mile, maybe Catalina Cruiser goes up in there, beat Jersey.
Right.
So right now the Classic is the one really with the question marks. You know, Accelerate obviously on the West Coast, but otherwise wide open division. The 3-year-olds haven't really impressed me yet to date. Justify will run against him on a farm, you know, at Coolmore or something like that. But I think it's a wide open division.
Yeah, it's a division seemingly there for the taking. We're going to pull up a couple videos. The first one, we're going to show the entire race of him repeating in the Dubai Golden Shaheen. And for my money as a handicapper, this was the performance of the year by anyone. If you're not familiar with the races at Meydan that day, literally every race was won on the lead. And not only did he come from way out of it, but races were won on the lead with, you know, Lifetime, Mendelssohn, and the World Cup winner, Thunder Snow, and here's Mind Your Biscuits dead last. I joked the other day, I watched this race several times. I'll throw it to you in a second. You can talk about it. And it's one of those races I know Mind Your Biscuits won. I've seen it several times. I watch it in mid-stretch, and I'm saying to myself, did he really win? How did he get up? Phenomenal performance to come from where he did over that track that day.
I feel the same way, Brian. I was there live, and I'm still not sure that he won the race. The big thing really was, myself and Joel, we always have kind of game plan A, B, C, and D, and we went to game plan E here because actually in the UAE Derby before it, Rhea, the filly who ends up running second in the UAE Derby, hated the kickback. So the big thing, even though they said the rail was golden, we actually gone to get off the rail. We sacrificed even more ground to come. And, over here, it looks like XY Jet's going to win the race.
Not even in the picture.
You got XY Jet, you got Roy H right behind the defending Breeders' Cup champion. And, there are two horses that you have to run down to beat. And we had to run an A race, and we certainly ran an A race here.
Yeah, phenomenal. And then, so this race...
I missed Tom Durkin not giving the call.
Yeah,
we need Tom Durkin to give that call.
That was like Pappernickel on Seinfeld there, getting up in time. So then we come back, Met Mile. A mile, it was kind of a stretch out for this horse for that matter. B Jersey, kind of the now horse, maybe had things relatively his own way that day. Once again, you guys come running. We're going to pick it up, I believe, off the far turn. A race, your horse ran too good to lose. Talk a little bit about the Met Mile in the race he ran that day behind B Jersey.
Well, the concern going into the race was that B Jersey can get loose on the lead, and it kind of unfolded that way. We're hoping one liner would press a little bit more. Both all broke good, but wasn't able to go back. So it was up against us. And you see 45 and 3, and you say that's a respectable time, but 45 and 3 unpressured, and 45 and 3 pressured is a big difference. And that's what we're going to see here today. You can't let Diversify go 46 and change unpressured. So, a lot of our strategy is going to depend on what happens, after the first half mile as far as the rest of the race is concerned. And we're coming here. We're coming with every run. The only thing here is B Jersey, once he sees us, he kind of re-engages a little bit. Ricardo Santana, great ride, having a great meet here.
Yeah,
he is. And, just able to hold us off. 3 jumps past the wire, we're in front. But unfortunately, you get paid for what the photo says, and the photo came up B Jersey.
You mentioned the pace today. I said on the Handicappers Report on our show earlier.
Did you pick us?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I said 2 things. Dalmore, I don't think has any chance of winning the Whitney, but I think you might agree he's the most important horse in the Whitney.
Oh, absolutely.
You're hoping, I would think, that Dalmore can, if nothing else, entertain Diversify for a half mile. You mentioned kind of what the plan is, and if there's a plan B out of the break. I said this. Now, the fact that you guys are stretching out from one turn, from 6 furlong, 7 races, mile races, in theory, you should be closer today because you've been stalking, closing into, hot paces. Do you expect your horse to be closer today with the added turn and slower splits, or is the plan still to, at least, right now, to take back and make a run?
You go back to that Met Mile, and he broke well in the Met Mile, and he put himself in a good position in the Malibu, the Belmont Sprint in the past, going 7, 8, 6 and a half. He's been able to put himself in good position. So I would definitely anticipate breaking, and we break well. It's a short run to the first turn, kind of established position, make Diversify have to work to whatever he's going to do, make Diversify have to work, and at that point then see how the race develops in front of us. And, not only Dalmore, but to the inside, Tapper breaking from the rail, and he's been kind of the way you watch he breezes, he kind of breaks away real quick. Johnny Velasquez on for the first time in a long time, or maybe in the first time at all. So Johnny, you got to think, is going to push a little bit, and Backyard Heaven has got to break from post 2 with Castellano. So, there's going to be a little bit of a scrum up over there, and you want to make sure you're not too far behind, and we'll see what happens with Dalmore as well.
Yeah, and I think you guys have a perfect post, and if fans aren't aware, the run into the first turn going 9 furlongs here on the main track at Saratoga is very tight, very quick. So Diversify will have to be used a little bit to, I don't know if it's to clear the field, but at least get position going in. And I think it creates for kind of a fascinating race. I know Rick Violet, who I'm going to have on in a little bit, was not going to run here, and now Diversify does come here. At least just from a handicapping perspective, his run in the Suburban was so huge, and you wonder if maybe he regresses a little bit. I think you guys are in a really good spot today. Your horse obviously is coming in here doing well. This was your race all along. I think maybe you know, at least in theory, you catch Diversify at a good time, too.
I think it's a possibility, but watching his breeze last Sunday, you know, knowing that Rick was on the fence about what he wanted to do, so Backyard Heaven was working in company, Diversify, and I had one, and my eyes were on Diversify and Backyard Heaven. And Backyard Heaven, I didn't think breezed well the other day. I thought Curlo kind of outworked him, and we'll see him in the Alley-Dale on Sunday. Diversify, I thought, worked lights out. I've been watching him all palm medals this winter time, thinking that, you know, at some point we're going to cross paths.
Of course.
And that breeze that he had on Sunday was the best breeze he's ever had in his life. And it really, really impressed me. And I knew right away at that point that Rick was going to run in the race.
Right.
That being said, you know, a half-mile, 5 furlong work, a lot different than running in a race.
Sure.
You know, how much do you have left in the tank? And the one thing really that there's no doubt about, first of all, Rick's done a great job with Diversify, first for Windsor and then purchasing him back for Ralph and Lauren Evans. But at the end of the day, the big thing is that his best races are when he's loose on the lead.
Yeah.
He won the New York Bred Race 2 back, but he beat Pat on the back. And Mind Your Biscuits is a little bit better than Pat on the back.
Pat on Your Back's 85-1 in here. Yeah, I agree with that. You mentioned, you know, you knew at some point you were going to tangle with Diversify. I would think it's pretty cool. You've got the all-time most, you know, Mind Your Biscuits, the all-time leader, New York Bred earnings. I think it's pretty cool that Diversify and Mind Your Biscuits are tangling now, as you said, in the Whitney, not the Evan Shipman or anything like that. Just you know, talk about two New York breds who are, as you mentioned, one of the ones now in the handicap division that is there for the taking, and they are, whatever you think of the morning line, and that's what the general public, you know, Diversify is 8-5 and Mind Your Biscuits is 9-5, or vice versa in here. In the Whitney handicap. That's pretty cool for the New York Bred program.
I think it speaks in volumes of what the New York Bred program is anymore. You know, it's no longer a bunch of Utopias and Rizzies out there, but it's horses that can compete with the Blue Bloods everywhere. I mean, whether it be New York or Kentucky or Florida or Dubai or wherever. You know, we won a Breeders' Cup race last year with Bar of Gold, kind of setting that standard there. And, you know, the first ever Grade 1 winner was, for New York Bred, was here in the Met Mile, I mean in the Whitney before. So, you know, it's one of those things to where New York Breds can go anywhere, and we're proud to be from New York. I know Rick certainly kind of everything that he's done for the New York program. So we have a lot of pride in that, and we're excited, and we hope that we're one too. We just hope that we're on top.
Yeah, for sure. Couple things before I let you go. Obviously, this is a horse you own in part with your family. You purchased this horse. You've seen it all happen in front of you since day one. $30,000 purchase, I think. You know, done pretty good. $3.9 million, and certainly counting. What's it been like to, again, see this horse develop from here on up and be where you are today as a legitimate, you know, to me, favorite to win the Whitney?
I mean, it's kind of a great kind of blue collar story. You know, we're a lunchbox family. He's a lunchbox horse, and you know, when we bought him as a yearling, you have this vision. Not that he's going to win the Whitney or win any Great Estate race, but you know, he's a cool New York bred, and you know, maybe he can develop into a nice, you know, horse, make $150,000, go through your conditions, maybe win a race at Saratoga. You know, not this one. And so to see kind of as he developed and got better and better, and then by the time as a 3-year-old, we put the blinkers on him and took another leap up. But I remember as a 2-year-old running over here, he got beat by a horse named Champion of the Nile by Linda Rice. And that was an $800,000 purchase, and I mean, that was the fastest 2-year-old race of the meet, faster than any of the open company races. So we always felt like he was a nice horse, but he just continued to get better and better, and the progression that he's done it, and the fact that he's traveled around the world 2 years in a row and has remained, you know, super sound is a testament to my staff and the great job that they've done kind of taking care of him as well.
And the other thing too is he's run 2 huge races coming out of Dubai, and that's not something you see. You mentioned, all right, so he's 1 for 5 at Saratoga, but you hinted at kind of, and I think I don't disagree with you that there's been some, you know, he's run big races here. He won the Amsterdam, obviously, as you said. He caught that good horse for Linda Rice, I think Lady Sheila Stable. So you know, a little deceiving that maybe, you know, people look at that and say, well, he's 6 for 17 everywhere else. He's 1 for 5 at Saratoga. Not necessarily the case.
Kind of very similar to how we were last year or this year going to Dubai. We had lost 4 races in a row, and everybody was writing us off saying, well, you're done. And we said, no, you know, we're sitting on our big race. Here, we're 1 for 5. I promise you this. His 6th race at Saratoga will be his best one, and you take with that what you want.
Good to hear. Last question. I know, like, you've got now some horses for Zayat and things like that. Obviously, I asked Jonathan Thomas this question too, because he's done a really good job with Catholic Boy. I would think this horse has opened up a lot of doors for you.
A few.
Yeah,
a few. Trying to go out of business, though, so we'll see.
Right. All right, last thing, we've got a $100 gift certificate for you for stopping by for Jacob and Anthony's right in town. I appreciate that.
Great restaurant.
See, you've got a little posse here. You can spend that.
A posse for the posse.
Yeah, there you go, right? Any way you'd like in town. Best of luck today.
Thank you so much.
Going forward as well in the Whitney. Chad Summers, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to bring us to our first break here on Saturdays at the Spa. When we come back, we've got Al Stahl, and then a little later, Chad's main rival in the Whitney, Rick Violet. Stay tuned.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very impressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need is right there in their hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Nathan to help them.
For 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 96-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients and served in a home-like setting where everyone is welcome. Some things have changed in the last 96 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Welcome back, Saturdays at the Spa with you. I want to thank Chad Summers for stopping by. Whitney contender, maybe Whitney favorite, Mind Your Biscuits, and I really appreciate him. But now we kind of switch races. I mentioned at the start, 2 historic races today at Saratoga, 2 of my favorites, the Whitney, certainly a clash of the New York breds, and now we bring in Al Stahl in the Grade 1 test, going 7 furlongs for 3-year-old fillies, and it's not a clash of Louisiana breds. But Al, I think, has got one of the ones with Minute to Stardom. Al, welcome. Thank you for stopping by Saturdays at the Spa. You're bringing in a Louisiana-bred filly, a homebred that has looked pretty darn good in 3 starts so far.
Yeah, we're proud of her. She's had a great start to her career, and we feel like she's earned her way up here. So today's going to be a class test, but she's the type of horse might be able to stand it.
Yeah, you know what? That was my first thing I was going to ask. You know, the acid test to her. 2 races against state breds in her 2-year-old career, then comes back in an optional claimer at Churchill. Did you think when you got her, and I look at her lines here, she was 3-5 and 1-2, 3-5 in a 12-horse field in her debut. So obviously you liked her. Obviously the people in the know liked her. But, you know, to go from a Louisiana bred race at Fairgrounds in November to one of the ones in the Grade 1 test here at Saratoga, did you ever think this would be the spot? Was she that kind of filly from day one?
Well, you wouldn't think that in the winter at the Fairgrounds, but certainly after that race at Churchill, races like you run out of options when a 3-year-old wins 2 races. So you kind of have to go hunting for something. And we contemplate a victory ride, but I just didn't want to do too much shipping with her, and she run well fresh. Plus, she's a big, grand-looking mare. She's beautiful. I mean, she's not a, what should say, a typical Louisiana bred, not knocking the breeds.
No,
but
no,
you know what I'm talking about. And so we always had that in our mind, and she's just done everything is so effortless to her. I mean, it's her first 2 races were just a jog, and her last race against a pretty nice horse with a really quick time, a good figure, was awfully easy also. Yeah,
we're going to show her debut here, and she's just run off in all her races in the stretch, not on the lead, but she seems very push button. She seems very very tactical. Here we see her debut at the fairgrounds, and it seems like you watch these 3 races, I don't think you've gotten to the bottom of her yet either.
Look how much bigger she is than the rest of them. You can just tell she towers over the field physically. And this is her first race. She wasn't cranked up to the end of the world. It was opening day at the fair, opening night at the fairgrounds, and very professional. Went on about it. And Kobe Hernandez was on her that day, and he just cruised her through the wire. And this race was trying to set her up for our Champions Day, which that's a natural progression when you have Louisiana bred. You wouldn't. It's not like we said, well, we should have taken her to Kentucky. There was never a thought of that.
And we'll show the footage as Al mentioned. The Lassie. On Champions Day at Fairgrounds a month later, facing winners for the first time, and basically almost a carbon copy of her debut, where she kind of pressed the issue. Here she is on the outside and rolled again.
Yeah, same thing. She's twice as big as the other horses, and that day, if you look at the racetrack, it's spotty. It'll be very. We had similar weather in New Orleans. It was heavy that day, so it could be similar to what she might run on today, because it was a drying out racetrack. Walking over with that race, it was like literally like a plowed field. So she got over a different type of racetrack and did it with consummate ease, and we were ready to move on from there. And she got sick. That was the gap.
That's why she didn't reappear again until May. But let's talk about one thing you hinted at the racetrack. I would think by 5:15 or so in the afternoon. It's a nice day out here in Saratoga. Knock on wood. We don't think the rain's coming. It could be one of those drying out heavy racetracks, maybe demanding, maybe tiring. Like you said, you've run over a track that was similar to that at Fairgrounds. Any worries today, or does that give you more confidence, or what?
Yeah, no, absolutely no worry. The trip, a few people asked me about the distance going from 5.5 to 6 to 7. That's not an issue. Knowing they're her top line, especially, and like I keep mentioning, her physical. She's an A physical, so. And she's bred to handle any surface, and she's done well. She's breezed in the slop, and she ran well on a drying out track, so absolutely no issue whatsoever.
And she's by Star Guitar, and if the fans aren't familiar with him, I know you are, as a guy that trains a lot of Louisiana breds, one of the immortals of Louisiana.
I trained Star Guitar. Oh yeah, no, he's one of our all-time favorites. He was the perfect horse. Never had a bad day. Showed up every time. I don't even know what his stats are, but I know he won like 24 races.
Well over $1 million.
Yeah, $1.8 million, and he won 22 stake races. It was he's just a horse that you let over there with a tremendous amount of confidence, and he's actually turned out to be a nice little stallion down in our region, and might be his first, hopefully a little breakout horse for him.
Any similarities physically
wise? He's a great looking horse. You can see her. She's got that Fappiano / Quiet American look to her, which comes from the sire line. So yeah, no question.
So we're going to bring up footage now entering the far turn of her comeback. And on paper, on figures, if you're into those kind of things, she was relatively slow as a 2-year-old. She comes back and runs a hole in the wind. You see her here doing the same kind of thing that I would think she's going to do today, outside stalking, pressing. This was, I said to Anthony Mormino before the show started, this was a hair on the back of your neck kind of performance to me. Off that break with a big fast number that she runs. Your thoughts about this comeback, and how this was a December to a May layoff, facing open horses too for the first time.
Right, and if you saw, Corey didn't set her down. He really never did set her down. He never turned his stick up. She was in hand the whole way down the backside and turned for home in a 3/16. She switched over to a right lead like you won't want to do, and Corey just kind of opened the reins at her a little bit and slid his hands back, and she just took off again and finished up. And that's the obvious effort that emboldened us to come up here and try this kind of race.
At least on paper, and you saw all the videos here, it looks like she's going to have that same kind of trip today, but then the gates open, and you know how that works. But I would think that's the way. You've got Alter Moon down inside. Classy Act isn't giving anything away early. Mia Mischiefs is here. I know you brought a program by. I would think you've looked at this race, how you expect or want it to be run. Is that the trip you're looking for from Corey today?
Right. Well, the outside draw we loved it when that came up that way. The first thing Corey told me when he got off the horse at Churchill, it's the first time he ever sat on her, he said, this filly's genuinely fast, meaning early speed. So she'll be close, wherever she's going to be, she'll be comfortable because she does it on her own. So I was happy to be outside of those horses, and we'll see how they break, how we break. But it does look like there's 2 or 3 inside speeds. So, yeah, I'd have to say we're very happy with how things look, on paper.
Have you identified any horses to beat? I'm sure you have respect for them all, but the way the race flow shapes up, I know Separation of Powers is in here. She was a good 2-year-old for Chad Brown. Came back and got a race out of the way off a long layoff too. If you kind of fear anyone, I know you've seen some of these fillies in Kentucky.
Yeah, well, it's a nice blend. It's what the test is all about. You got a horse from Florida that just changed hands at the sale in the Horse of Racing Age sale. With a great form, Alter Moon, and going into Chad's barn, and obviously Chad's other filly, couldn't have broke any worse. I mean, so that was basically a kind of a throwout race. I'm assuming she got enough out of that to be ready for this type of race, and then you got Steve and Brett Calhoun's horse. I know them well. I know the sire very well. In the Mischiefs, they show up to work every day. Those type of horses. So everybody's going to be there. It's a test. That's what it's all about. So I fear them all. I think it's going to be an even race. I don't know what the favorite might be, 5-2, 3-1, I guess. I don't know who's going to be, but I don't see a 6-5 shot in there at all.
No, without a doubt. 7 furlongs today. You talked about it a little bit. She's yet to go past 6. She's lightly raced. I don't want to say lacking seasoning, but just a second start of the year. But you seem to be very confident stretching out an additional furlong today.
Right. Well, we just don't have opportunities to run 7/8 at fairgrounds, obviously, and Churchill race was 6 furlongs, so we just ran in it, and with the pedigree and the way she looks, the distance is no problem. And as far as the seasoning goes, I mean, she's a fast horse. She might not be used to the hot pace, but like I said, Corey said, she's a legitimately fast horse.
Right.
The guys ridden that many horses, that many races, won that many races, they can feel that maybe the Wildcat air on the bottom side, puts that natural speed into her. So I imagine she'll be comfortable and out there semi-clear. So. The lack of seasoning might not hurt as much as if there was a horse who was tucked in and getting hammered with a bunch of dirt. So I think she's fine for it. And like I said, what we saw in Louisville off the bench just gave us a bunch of confidence.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that. Was after that race, and it was in late May, and I don't even like to call it a layoff in 2018, but she hasn't run since, obviously. But did you say to yourself after that race, all about the test, you're here every summer, did you say, you know what, that's where we're going? Or?
Well, we considered the victory ride just for a little while, but then I got to thinking about shipping and trying to do 2 separate things. And like I said, we do come here, and we're Saratoga people, and we want to take a good long look at this race, and we like the way it came up, and so it's a chance that I'm comfortable taking.
Yeah, and she seemingly worked well up here. A couple local breezes take to the track. And
everything's fine. She did her strong work was, I think it was July 4th at Churchill. We kind of hammered on her that particular day, let her get over it, shipped her up here, and just maintained her a little bit. A couple works we're happy with them. Let her open gallop. We got some wet tracks last weekend, so I decided to let her open gallop. I think it was Monday or Tuesday, and she's nice and fresh and kind of where we want her to be.
As a horseman, I always kind of joke about this, but you see the layoff line in your form, but as a lifelong horseman, I think in 2018, May 27th to August 4th is not really a layoff at this day and age where horses don't run as much. It's pretty natural, I would think, that spacing.
That's you run Memorial Day at Churchill. When you win 2 races, a 3-year-old, there's nowhere to run.
Right.
It's not like there was a stake or an allowance race that went closing. There is no. You got to go hunting a stake. Whether it be Prairie Meadows or Belmont, or unfortunately the way the stake schedules at racetracks have been cut quite a bit. And a lot of those straight 3-year-old filly races have been whacked, so to speak. Especially sprinting. So the opportunities are limited. So we just were patient and decide just go all in.
Right. As a lifelong horseman and trainer, do you believe in the bounce theory? Is it something you're cognizant of?
Yes.
You do? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I used to watch it when I was about 10, 12 years old. In the old days, they put an asterisk by the price called beaten favorites.
Yeah.
if you were like $2.10 to one, they
Right.
put a star, it'd mean you were favorite. And when a horse would get beat as a favorite, they'd come back and run well. So
Right.
that was the precursor to the bounce theory. We're going back a long, long
Yes.
way. So I don't think we're a bounce candidate.
Okay.
Because we've had a lot of time, and
Right.
that race was very handy. I'd be shocked if the gates opened and there was just a flat horse.
Right. And
it could happen, but I don't see it happening at all.
Okay, and so that was, you know, a lead into my next question. Obviously, as I mentioned and talked about, she, you know, you look at her on paper, again, with any kind of figures you use, if it's the buyers or the sheets or what have you, that race was, you know, way better than anything she ran at 2. But you don't worry about that coming back today off such a giant performance that there's regression. You seem like, A, you seem very confident, B, but I think the spacing probably helps with that too.
With the spacing and the fact that she hasn't missed an oat and hasn't missed any training. And,
Right.
and she's a big physical horse. So that doesn't worry me too much. You know, you're not going to get good numbers running as a Louisiana bred
Yeah.
maid. You could break the track record
And you're
in
still-
the LA bred, and the
Right.
par number is going to keep you in the 60s or 70s, or, you know, so those figures are a little bit different when we talk about state breds
Right.
early in their career. So not like she was running that fast back then, but I'm not too worried about a bounce at all.
Did you see, you know, horses at 2 don't always have to progress at 3 and don't always have to be at good from 2 to 3. Did you see that kind of progression, both obviously what you thought you might get on the racetrack and physically as well? Did she really grow up from 2 to 3?
Yeah, well, she was a big 2-year-old filly. She was impressive. You saw
Yeah.
how much bigger she was. So a horse with her body type, you don't worry about them being a 2-year-old flash in the pan. She's going to get better with age, and she'll be better as she gets older. And I'm not saying a lot of people ask me, will she stretch? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of speed on the female side, so. But she's not a horse to just flatten out and say, oh, that was a good 2-year-old. You know, she didn't grow with the rest of them. But that's not the case at all.
Were you trying to make any races this winter with her? That you said there was a hiccup.
Yeah.
She got sick.
She was on the program for the, I think it's called Premier Night at Delta Downs.
Okay.
In early February. She was obviously like 2 to 5, and she just came up with a fever. And once we missed that, there again, you run into a situation where there weren't races for her at the end of the fairgrounds. She'd won 2 races. The Louisiana bred stake program, I think, stretched out to like the Crescent City Oaks or whatever it's called. So we didn't really want to do that off the bench and off being sick. So we just kind of shut her down, made sure she was 1,000%, which obviously was. Got over anything that might have been residual, and we knew at Churchill she was ready to run Derby weekend. And I just said, well, let's not do that because it's Derby weekend. They have the same race on Oaks Day traditionally. And I said, let's let all the ego and all the testosterone flow on out of there, and we'll wait for the one Memorial Day, and they write the A other than maiden claimer, starter, or state bred. So that's why she could back into that type of race, and it fit the schedule, and that's why we're here.
Just from a handicapping perspective, I think it at least as a bettor, it gives me or the bettors confidence that she wasn't a 2-year-old filly, you know, just more precocious, better than horses in short fields. I mean, 12 horses on debut is not easy for a horse making her first career start. I would think she's very advanced and the type that you can do anything with. Yeah,
well, the thing about her, as big as she is, she's, like Corey said, she has genuine speed. When the latch is open, she's gone. And not in a runoff way, she's just quick, and she just cruises. So that's just what good horses are made of.
Right, and it brings it back today. The outside post for a filly that big and imposing, you had to love that draw as opposed to being inside.
Couldn't have been. If they let me pick a number, it'd be the second from the end.
Yeah,
where we ended up.
And will you tell Corey anything? Or I mean, he knows her obviously. He rode her last time at Churchill. Break running and look to the left.
That's what he's going to do. Yeah, there's no sense in telling that because that's what he's going to do no matter what I say anyway. So yeah, no, he'll be fine.
All right, Al, 3 for 3 minutes of stardom. She certainly looks like the now horse in a race that, again, it seems there for the taking today. You have to be really confident going in.
Yeah, we're excited. Yeah. We're excited. It's good for our state program. It's good for the owner. It's good for the stallion. All the horses that we're all associated with. I have her full sister running the stake race in Louisiana today.
Right.
So there's all kind of things going on. And then of course you throw in the Corey Lanerie factor with what's going on with his life. It's you know. You don't think of that going in because we're here to win a horse race, but now that the closer you get and it gets closer and closer that you might have a shot for that, it's kind of exciting. And I don't even want to think past
Right.
what may or may not happen after the race.
But with the passing of his wife recently, it's been a very tough time. I know you're very close to Corey and Kentucky, steep connection. So Al, I want to wish you the best of luck. We've got a $100 gift certificate for you, and it's in Jacob and Anthony's right in town.
Been there.
Been there, good. Great food. Best of luck. Here we see it on the board, 38 High Rock Avenue. Al, best of luck with Minute to Stardom. I really appreciate you taking the time to stop by on what I know is a busy Saturday on Whitney Day in Saratoga. Best of luck today.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Great. Bring us up to our second break on the Saturdays at the Spa. We had Chad Summers with Mind Your Biscuits in the Whitney. Al Stahl was with us, Minute to Stardom in the Test. And when we come back, we'll bookend the day here. Rick Violet's going to stop by. He's got the Morning Line favorite, another New York bred, Diversify in the Whitney. Two New York breds going at it, a Louisiana bred in the Test. A little outside the box today at Saratoga on Whitney Day. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Rick Violet.
For 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 96-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients and served in a home-like setting where everyone is welcome. Some things have changed in the last 96 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very impressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need it. It's right there in their hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Nathan to help them.
If you like to play the Late Pick 5, here's some great news. Capital OTB is now accepting internet wagering on NYRA's Late Pick 5 at Saratoga on all platforms and all digital devices. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com, look for the icon, and there you go. If you're playing on one of your digital devices, just open your Capital OTB Bet icon, click on the menu button, and scroll down to find the Late Pick 5. Late Pick 5 wagering, now at Capital OTB.
Welcome back. Brian Nadeau with you. Saturdays at the Spa here at Saratoga, and what is turning into nothing short of a glorious day as I look outside our broadcasting tent here. We've got blue skies, the rain. I'm going to say it, the rain is out of the area. I know that's a bold prediction. The problem is it rained all day yesterday and overnight, and it's left us with some bookkeeping to do here as I talk to you at 10:42 on Saturday morning. If you're not in the loop, if you didn't see the handicappers report and Anthony Mormino and myself, a lot going on outside of just racing at Saratoga today. They have canceled, and Anthony and I kind of scratched our head trying to think the last time this happened. They have canceled race 10, the grade 3 weigh-up, and they have canceled race 11, the lure, the Fasig-Tipton lure. They are going to be brought back next Sunday and Saturday, respectively. They'll redraw those races and bring them back. So it's kind of unique that today's get-out race is the Grade 1 Whitney Handicap, the historic Whitney Handicap that's going to pit two New York breds Mind Your Biscuits and Diversify as clearly the two betting choices in that race. The Grade 1 test, and I want to thank Al Stahl for stopping by just now and talking about his exciting Louisiana-bred filly, Minute to Stardom. The Grade 1 test is going to be the penultimate race on the card, and it'll kick off an all Grade 1 daily double. Earlier on the card, the first 5, okay, we are off the turf in races 1, races 2, races 4, off the turf. Race 5, the De La Rose, is going to be on the turf, which we know is going to be soft turf today, okay? So that will be the lone turf race in the sequence. The De La Rose run on soft turf, so they're going to keep that pick 5 intact early. There is still a pick 6 today. Races 4 through 9 is your pick 6. So again, that will end with the Whitney as well. But what we've lost today, because of the cancellations, is we've lost the late pick 5 and we've lost the late pick 4. So big hits on those bets that we're sure, especially that late pick 4, we're sure they're going to be big balloons handle-wise. They've been betting it off the board. So we lose those two pick 5s and pick 4s. They will not happen today. Conversely, though, I would think it really adds a ton of value to both the early pick 5 and as well as the early pick 4. So a lot going on here. As I mentioned, the weather. I don't have an update on what the main track condition is going to be. If I sit here and speculate, I'm going to think it starts as muddy or sloppy and sealed. But with what, as I mentioned, the weather outside right now, which is great. There's some humidity in the air. It's going to be hot today, low 80s, I think. I would think by go time in the middle of the card, when the big races are going to be run, there's 2 really nice maiden special weight races on the card. Race 6 for older horses, race 7 for 2-year-olds. I would think as we get into the middle of this card, they're going to open that main track up. I would think it's going to dry out. I just had Al Stahl here next to me with Minute to Stardom. He was confident the track would be a track that is not going to have a ton of moisture in it like a sloppy or sealed track, but more maybe a good tiring track. Maybe when they harrow it, open it up. It'll be on the demanding side. I think it'll be good. Maybe I don't know if we could get the fast. Again, this is all speculation at 10:45 in the morning here, but I can almost be assured that it's going to dry out. Maybe it does become demanding. Strictly for Minute to Stardom, Al mentioned, she handled that kind of track in her second start in the Louisiana Lassie at Fairgrounds last year. He loved the post position. Her draw today from a pressing outside post with all the speed to her inside. I picked her on the Handicappers Report. I think she's in a great spot today. I respect a lot of these connections, these gals in here, but I think she really looks to be in a great spot with a lot of other speed. So we'll see how it shakes out. Again, thanks to Al Stahl for stopping by. Thanks to Chad Summers as well, who has, as I mentioned, Mind Your Biscuits, the all-time leader in terms of purse money for New York breds. Mind Your Biscuits, I have him favored on my line in the Whitney, but regardless, he's 8-5, Diversify 7-5, or vice versa. It's pretty cool. As I mentioned to Chad, the 2 New York breds are clearly the 2 horses to beat in the Whitney. So it's going to bring us to our next break here on Saturdays at the Spa. We've got Rick Violet lined up in the hopper, trainer of Diversify, 7-5 on the morning line in the Whitney. We'll take another break on Saturdays at the Spa. Stay tuned. We'll be back shortly.
Looking for a fantastic meal? Stop by Malcolm's, a unique farm-to-table restaurant experience. Located at 617 Union Street in Schenectady, Malcolm's offers locally grown fresh foods, mouth-watering flavors, an enhanced drink menu, and terrific service. Malcolm's is a sure bet during Saratoga season. Make your reservation today.
Pick, bet, and cheer on live racing from Woodbine and Mohawk Park. Thoroughbred and harness action. The wagers are just the beginning. Watch award-winning broadcasts covering both breeds, incredible battles contested over the most unique grass course in North America. Experience the full fields with over 130 thoroughbred and 160 live harness days. Get access to free handicapping material and join the ranks of Woodbine and Mohawk Park players from all over the globe. For more information, visit woodbine.com.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
Welcome back. Brian Nadeau with you here on what looks like a great day of the races, Whitney Day here at Saratoga. Saturday's at the Spa. We had Chad Summers to start it with Mind Your Biscuits, who's going to be one of the ones in the Whitney. And then Al Stahl stopped by with Minute to start him in the Grade 1 test earlier on the card for the 3-year-old fillies. We were hoping to have Rick Violet. I believe he's going to get here shortly. We're going to try to get him to come over. I thought he had an issue, but let's see if we can get him to come over here shortly. I just got a text that he probably will be stopping by. He's got Diversify in the Grade 1 Whitney, the 7-5 favorite on the morning line, and I'm going to just talk about the race a little bit and see if we can get Rick. He's on his way, so I really appreciate him taking the time. I know it's a busy morning here at Saratoga, so we'll get him mic'd up when he gets over here. But the Whitney is, you know, I mentioned to Chad Summers and he, and to Anthony Mormino especially when we did the handicappers report. I mentioned to him especially, I don't think it's your dad's Whitney, and that's not because we have two New York breds are the favorite. I don't mean that at all, because I think Diversify and Mind Your Biscuits could fit nicely into any Whitney you want to run up here. It's the rest of them, I think, that maybe are a little below par. Tapwrit, the Belmont winner, has not yet run back to that one race. And the Belmont in and of itself is a 1.5-mile race on the dirt. It's almost a little bit of an albatross of a race because it's so foreign to horses, and it's not something they're ever going to do again, especially on the dirt, okay? So I think Tapwrit has struggled to find that form, and he was he was an okay fourth in the Travers last year, so he's got questions to answer. Chad Brown's got Backyard Heaven in here with a lot of questions to answer because he looks so good winning one turn at Aqueduct, and then when he went to Churchill Downs in the Grade 2 Ali Sheba, and he ran off the screen that day, and it was a monster performance, and you thought to yourself, wow, this guy's now one of the ones here in the handicap division. And then he runs into Stephen Foster, and he was 4-5, and it was a complete no-show under the lights. And then you say, well, you know what? That Ali Sheba, all he did was press Always Dreaming, who's done nothing since winning the Kentucky Derby last year. He pressed him into the ground, was 5 clear off the far turn. No one else did any running, so you can kind of say, Backyard Heaven's a little dicey in here. Dalmore, as I mentioned to Anthony Mormino, and I mentioned it to Chad Summers, I don't think Dalmore can win this race by any stretch of the imagination, but hopefully Rick Violet's going to be here in a second, and I'm going to say to him, Dalmore is arguably the most important horse in the race, though, because if nothing else, I think he's speedy enough and classy enough to potentially cause problems to Diversify early in the race, or at least for a half mile. And Diversify wants to go. He wants to hear his feet rattle. So Dalmore's in there with a pace-playing role today. Like I said, I don't see him sticking around at the end, but I think he could potentially be a nuisance to Diversify, who's going to try to wire the Whitney field today. Mind Your Biscuits and Chad Summers. Again, Chad, thank you so much for stopping by. Very confident, and why wouldn't he be confident? I think this horse is in a good spot. He's never run 2 turns. He's never run past a mile, but as Chad said, Rick Violet stops by now. We'll get him mic'd up, so we're going to get some of these questions answered. As Chad Summers said, he's done everything they've asked so far. Why wouldn't he do it today? So Discreet Lover, clearly one of the long shots in the field, and then we get to Diversify, and we're going to get to Rick in a second. Good Samaritan, I think, is interesting. He's run one at 2 turns here on the Saratoga main track, and a real decisive effort winning the Jim Dandy last year, but very pace dependent, I think, today. And McCracken, the last of the 8-pack, McCracken, frankly hasn't done any running outside of Churchill Downs. So there's a lot of questions to be answered. Rick Violet slides in to the left of me. I appreciate him stopping by, making the time with the 7-5 morning line favorite in the Whitney. Brian Nadeau with you, Rick. Thanks for stopping by. Saturdays at the Spa. I'm going to throw it to you. I just mentioned right off the top, I think the pace of the Whitney is very important. I said Dalmore, I don't think he can win the Whitney, but the argument or statement I made, especially for Diversify, you could argue Dalmore is the most important horse in the race, and that he has the ability to maybe entertain you guys for a little bit early. How do you see the pace of the Whitney shaping up today with a horse Diversify who's clearly done his best running on the lead?
Yeah, I mean, we break running, and if they wanted to step on more gas than that, then, to be honest with you, almost play like he's not there.
Okay.
I think Irad will be very aggressive.
Yep.
If they want to one-up us and be more aggressive, we're on the outside, more than capable of stalking, but we're not relinquishing anything. They'll have to take it, and if they're aggressive enough to do that, then so be it.
Yeah, clearly your horse's best asset is his speed. You're not going to take that away from him. We're going to pull up a couple videos here. First, the Jockey Club Gold Cup last year at Belmont Park, going 1.25 miles. I know he had run some monster races in the past. Certainly the Evan Shipman comes to mind, the Sagamore. Here we see it, though, freewheeling on the lead in the Grade 1 Gold Cup, and what was without a doubt a breakthrough performance for this guy.
It was, although the Shipman before that kind of sent signals that we were approaching that. It certainly gave us enough confidence to head to the Jockey Club Gold Cup. We did have things kind of our own way that day. We had the inside post, which is a huge advantage, going 1.25 miles at Belmont. We went 1/2 and 47 and change, and then he kept going. The Suburban, on the other hand, is a different story.
And we're going to bring that up too. It's a good segue. As a handicapper and a bettor, I played this race, and I thought, Diversify was not a horse I came up with. I thought his performance was out of this world to go 1.25 miles that day and be freewheeling 46 flat. You mentioned kind of had your things own way, going 47 and 3 in the Gold Cup. Going 46 flat, being on, Zanotti's on the hard chase here. Nothing, I don't want to say it didn't go your way, but you were flying out there and didn't feel like stopping.
We were, the half bothered me because we actually went in 23 and changed the first quarter, and 46 and a tick.
9 and 3.
But that was, I felt more comfortable there because now everybody was off the bridle behind them. They were already chasing, and we were fairly comfortable. The 46, I wasn't so sure what was going to happen there, but he kept going. And by the way, he was pressed pretty hard at going the 46, and so I'm not sure that somebody right on our heels bothers us a whole lot either.
Those 2 races, 1.25 miles at Belmont Park. We cut back a little bit today. You're 1 for 4 at 9 furlongs, but again, you've run well with big figures there. What I wanted to ask you was, this was not necessarily the first plan, and so what I said was earlier on the day, you didn't bring Diversify here, he brought you here, I would think. And Chad Summers even said the last work he thought was by far the best work of his life. He's coming in at the top of his game, I would think.
Yeah, Chad pays a lot of attention to other people's horses, but it was spectacular work, maybe even a little quick, but he did bring us here. I maybe too quickly discounted the Whitney right after the Suburban because it was such a huge effort. But he kept eating well, he trained well, and then when he breezed off the charts last Sunday and his blood work came back great, there was no reason not to run him.
Sure.
You know, when they're doing well, you're supposed to run.
And they have the Woodward at the end of the meet. I know that's a spot you had mentioned. So again, just the fact that he's here, he's got to be doing quite well. The question I asked Chad, or more of a statement, and you have been steeped in the New York bred program for many, many years. The fact that you know, my two guests today and the two by far horses to beat on paper and on the morning line in the Whitney are New York breds has got to be pretty cool. I mean,
it really is. I mean, you know, there's I don't know that there's any glass ceiling any longer. They're two good horses. It's really nice that they're bred in New York State, but they're by far just first, you know, true and true, very, very talented horses.
You hinted that, you know, he was coming up to a big race in the Gold Cup last year, and I look at him on paper, and obviously he was a very, very talented stakes-winning New York bred. Did you ever think there was a point in his development where you said, you know, if I told you you'd be the 7-5 favorite in the Whitney on the morning line, you know, do I have three heads or?
Well, no, I think 7-5 is a little short anyway, but I actually thought there was more there. We actually breezed them on the turf 2 or 3 times last summer before we went to the shipment, because I just thought that we were missing something.
Right.
And actually what it was is going further. We hadn't run a 1 1/8 yet.
Right.
And actually we ran one and we ran poorly back at Aqueduct, and that probably wasn't his fault. But you know, certainly we've learned that his high cruising speed could be devastating, and so 1 1/8, 1 1/4 is pretty cool.
Only one, you know, blip on his radar here, the Charlestown Classic. 3 turns, kind of a funky race, a funky racetrack.
I
think I heard you say that he got that second turn and kind of thought it was over with.
He did. It was, you know, and I think the air came out of him. He won his second turn and said, okay, this is it. And it might have spooked Irad a little bit that this is it, meant maybe there was something wrong. And by the time he realized he was traveling great, I mean, the race was over.
Yeah.
So it's a throwout. He's a little bit of a quirky horse.
Okay.
And so that's kind of within his arsenal. To kind of say, okay, that's enough.
Okay.
You know, he doesn't gallop out well necessarily at Belmont. Gallops out really well here. But because he knows where to pull up.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he could count too well when he got to 2, and he said enough's enough.
Right. You've looked at this race on paper, I'm sure. I've talked about Mind Your Biscuits. Obviously, he's a talented, very talented New York bred. Do you look at any of these other horses, or you say, I'm worried about him, or is it more, I'm confident in my horse and how he's coming over here today?
I mean, you're always worried about everybody else.
Of course.
I mean, you know, it's a really good race. I know people want to knock the race a little bit, but 3 Grade 1 winners in it. Other than stuff like the Breeders' Cup, I'd like to see other Grade 1 races with more than 3 Grade 1 winners.
I don't think you'll see it in the Pacific Classic.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think sometimes it's maybe a little bit backhanded knock or compliment because there are a couple of New York breds in it. But I think it's a pretty good race. I mean, we've got the Belmont winner. We've got, you know, what Mind Your Biscuits has done is phenomenal. I mean, he's a genuine good horse. But you're also not supposed to back off on another horse that's doing something for the first time.
Right.
I mean, he could run off the screen and he will be elevated to another level. But he has to do it.
It's a $64,000 question,
exactly.
right?
You know, Backyard Heaven, he's maybe has the bluest sky. We don't know how good he is yet. You throw out the last race, and his trajectory could be up. You know, and obviously Good Samaritan loves this racetrack. So it's a good race. You have to run it. If we run our A game, I think we're in a good spot.
Yeah. Now this racetrack today, and we don't know how it's going to be around 5:45. I would think it's drying out. I would think they open it up, and maybe it's pretty demanding, pretty tiring. Any concerns from your standpoint, or you just
always? I mean, we got 3 inches of rain last night, so but this place does dry out. They'll squeeze it and pack it and get it as glib as they can. But we'll see how tiring. Yesterday, 2-turn races did not flatter speed, so we'll watch that. But I don't think there's a whole lot you do to that anyway. He is what he is. you play his strong suit, and if that works, terrific.
Yeah, you're not going to take anything away from it. Are there fractions in your head, or you just leave that up to Irad?
No,
and go from there?
we went 46 and got a mile and a quarter last, his last Suburban. So 46 probably shouldn't scare us going a mile and an eighth.
Commentator, another New York bred that won the Whitney, not looking ahead, but if he is fortunate enough to win this race, as I mentioned, you're a guy that's been steeped in the New York bred program a long time. I would have to think it's a pretty proud accomplishment to have a New York bred win this race.
Oh, it is. It's one of those legacy races, like the Suburban, like the Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Right.
Great horses have won it, and great horses. I mean, super horses. Secretariat can beat.
Right.
So, but it's certainly one of the 6 or 8 races in New York that have the whole heritage of true greatness.
And it would be a heck of a trifecta, as you mentioned: the Gold Cup, the Suburban, the Whitney. If Diversify is fortunate enough to do it. I know it was a busy morning for you. I really appreciate you taking the time to stop by. Best of luck today in the Whitney with Diversify. 7-5 on the morning line favorite. 2 New York breds battling it out in the Whitney. And best of luck going forward, too, Rick.
Thank you
I
so
really
much.
appreciate it. Thanks for
Thank
stopping
you.
by. That is going to do it for us today on Saturdays at the Spa. Special thanks to all my guests. Chad Summers has started out, one of Rick's main rivals today with Mind Your Biscuits, and then Al Stahl with a Louisiana-bred minute to stardom in the Grade 1 test. I think she's in a great spot. And then obviously Diversify, as I mentioned, 7-5 morning line favorite in the Whitney. 2 New York breds going at it. It's really cool, as Rick said, and as Chad Summers said earlier, 2 New York breds that are really elevating the bar. And I don't think, in years past, maybe you'd scoff at that a little bit. Oh, he's a New York bred. That, clearly not the case anymore, as these horses are making major dents in open company. So again, Whitney Day here at Saratoga. We lose the last 2 races. A weird and wild Whitney Day. We race 10, race 11 are canceled. We're off the turf early. The De La Rose will stick on. No late pick 5, no late pick 4. But what we do have is the Grade 1 test in the Grade 1 Whitney. Brian Nadeau saying thank you to all my guests and best of luck today on Whitney Day. Take care.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.